Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host Brian West, to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in first, and I'll show you a movie clip, a trailer, pictures, something that's going on in the community, or maybe even a picture of my smiling face, and I'll give you the top 8 international headlines developing news stories that made it in, folks. Let's waste no time. Oh yeah, let's get to it. Story number 1. Girard honors its Medal of Honor recipient with a street. Girard has named Kenneth David Medal of Honor Boulevard in honor of a local Vietnam veteran, who has received the Congressional Medal of Honor. The story made it in some time back after former President Joseph Biden in January awarded David the Medal of Honor. That's what it says in the story. Now, the medal is the military's highest. The Medal of Honor is the military's highest ranking achievement. David is credited for saving 13 lives. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Audrey Tillis retires from her duties in Youngstown. Dan Pompley has a report published June 8th in what appears to be a 13-year run that now ends with a farewell. Audrey Tillis has served for 13 years as budget director and county administrator and has now retired. Now, Audrey Tillis has served God, family, and community for over, 13 years with an extensive resume. The article describes the shape that the county's finances and programs were in before she took the job, and it ends by focusing on the impact that Audrey has had to present day. Now, thus getting the story to the top 8. That's story number 2. Story number 3. The Ween Foundation still in top headlines. The Vindicator has a report published June 28th explaining how the Raymond John Ween Foundation's board of directors approved $431,000 in grants earlier this month to support community revitalization, economic opportunities, and public and civic sector leadership. These are all programs, folks. Let's get into the stories to the top 8. That's why story number 3 made it. Story number 4. Full staff now at Youngstown Fire Department. Nathan Hershka has been sworn in to bring Youngstown's fire department to a full staff of 125 firefighters, thus getting the story into the top 8. A report by Ed Runyon of the Vindicator published July 1st explains the entire story and goals of the Youngstown Fire Department. That's why story number 4 made it. Story number 5. A tragic plane crash in Howland. Chris McBride has a report published July 2nd after a tragic plane crash took the lives of 6 Howland community members. Joseph Maxson, Timothy Blake, Veronica Weller, James Weller, and Maria Reller all passed on to the next life after a twin-engine Cessna crashed into a wooded area off of the Kings Graves Road. This is a sad story. Now, the crash is still being investigated. The fact that the family was well known for their community service is what has drawn so many people to pour out their sympathies in this, especially in these seemingly uncertain times, folks. Let's get this story to the top 8. So story number 5 made it. Story number 6. The city-run ambulance service may be the only option. David Skolnick has a report published July 1st informing the public that a city-run ambulance service may be feasible, but not for 5 years. And what the headline that's what the headline reads. Now, the report explains how a study has determined that a city-run ambulance service will cost more than about $5.6 million in just the first year of operation. The cost is what has this story trending. Youngstown Mayor Jamel Tito Brown said on Monday that the city plans to let the contract automatically renew for 2 years, according to the report. Folks, the story is still developing. That's story number 6. Also made it to the top 2 this week. Big B. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you. To keep you informed, folks, if you don't get up this early, you can check out the time capsule of shows on our website. That's on the screen. Do upload the show to the website. Story number 7. The levies have taxpayers talking. Dan Pompley has a report published July 1st. Now, the report explains how the Mahoning County Board of Development Disabilities is looking for more funding stability. Now, this is word for word on how the report begins. Now, the report continues by explaining how Board Superintendent Bill Whitworth said his agency is asking voters to make the levy that supports MCBDD permanent. Now, that's what he wants to do. Now, the $3 mil levy, he's asking the people to do it. $3 mil levy that passed in 2001 generates more than $12.6 million a year. The report goes further to cite additional money brought in over the years after being renewed. So this is why they want it to be permanent. Now, this story is still developing. Most of these notes are word for word from the report. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made this week for you. To keep you informed, folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio. See my smiling face, give me a hug, shout at me, argue with me, or even just look through the metal and tell me what's gold and what's not. Story number 8, state budget in top headlines. I do want to let you know the address is Boardman, Ohio, 5648 Market Street, or you could go to the website on the screen and buy something, cook something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program if you want to show some support. Story number 8, let's repeat this. State budget in top headlines. David Skolnick has a report published July 2nd. Now, the headline reads that Mike DeWine vetoed 67 budget items and goes on to say that lawmakers vow to override the governor's actions on property tax changes. Now, this story made it in because taxpayers have been livid over being overtaxed and many taxed out of their homes. Now, the article goes on to explain how DeWine says that rising property taxes are a concern, but said that if adjustments were made, local schools would be affected. Folks, the article is definitely worth a read. It really succeeds at informing the reader about where the state is headed when it comes to tax reform. So I started a rate made to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere in the Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, it is my birthday this week, and I'm going to talk about my adventures when I became a published author. I was self-published, and I would publish all these manuscripts, and some of them were edited, some of them were unedited, but I would just publish. Some of them would be religious, Christian, just my thoughts. But I was determined to be a writer when I was a kid. I always enjoyed journaling, and it was something that was in my blood. Now, what I found out when I got older is that writing books and becoming an author is tough. And most journalists and writers that you see do not make a lot of money, and you probably would think, you sit there on TV, oh, they're on TV and they're dressed nice, that they're actually swimming in cash. Well, that's not the case for a lot of journalists, or people who are writing books. Some authors have to stand outside, and especially if they go into a bookstore, the bookstore takes a cut of their profits if they have a signing. Nobody's at the signing. You may see a NBA game or NFL game, and there may be a line outside to meet a player. No, not for authors. You'd be lucky if you get a cartoon. And some authors, see, I went through the self-publishing route, which is where you go and you get print on demand, and it's not as fluffy and as exciting and as well designed as a big publishing house would publish it. But they get a cut, and you end up what they call the bucket deal. So being an author is not easy, and being a writer is not easy, and you have to take a beating, because I'll explain how every author has a little touch. Anybody in entertainment has a little touch of probably ADD, attention deficit disorder, because you want people to indulge in your storytelling, and you want an audience. And I'm going to tell you, the book that set it off was I think it was J. Rowling's. I think she came with Harry Potter, and when people saw her book selling and flying off the shelf and seeing her become famous, and other authors thought that they could do the same thing, and it turns out that that's not the case. TV can make things look beautiful and glamorous and glorious, but behind the scenes there are some broke abs authors standing in line waiting for their $5 royalty check. And that's the sad story about author. I'll share that story with you since it's my birthday. I'll share some of my stories that I've had to encounter in my life, folks. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. U.S. manufacturing and tariffs still in top headlines. Reuters has a report published July 1st in what appears to be another tariff alert. The piece explains how U.S. manufacturing has been hit by the tariffs. The report begins by stating that the sector remained sluggish in June, with new orders subdued and prices paid for inputs creeping higher. So that's what the report says. Now, the report goes on to suggest that the Trump tariffs are the reason for this sluggishness. Now, the story is filled with data and information about what is taking place in the industry and what is being done to combat the tariff ripple effect, folks. This story is still developing. That's my story number 1. Story number 2. What happened to Idaho? What happened in Idaho? That's the question. Now, one story out of the Washington Post puts public EMS workers back under safety alert. Now, this is after 2 firefighters were killed and 1 wounded in a prolonged attack in Idaho. Now, the story goes on to explain how the body of the suspected gunman was later recovered. Now, the report states that the gunman purposely set a fire and then ambushed the responding firefighters, thus getting the story to the top 8 and keeping public service safety in top headlines. That's story number 2 made in this week. Story number 3. Netanyahu's war against Hamas is rooted in something greater. There's something much deeper going on in this war. Something evil that may be outside of just something, a war. Now, Al Jazeera and many other news outlets are keeping Netanyahu's war against Hamas in top headlines after at least 66 children have died of malnutrition in Gaza. Now, the alarm is sounding now because the UNICEF says that the number is rising. Now, ABC News has a headline by Dia Ostez stating that one of Gaza's last functioning hospitals is even struggling to survive with lack of supplies. Now, the report goes on to explain how the entire Gaza health care system has collapsed, folks. Now, each report could leave people asking, was this war options even worth it in what appears to be something deeper in this now crisis? I mean, was it even worth even going to war it may cost more just if you didn't go to war. It may have cost less if you did. No, this story is still developing because needed resources are being wasted, and this is a sad story, folks. That's story number 3. Story number 4. Trump's actions are no different from Obama's, says his base. The immigration debate the debates they're flowing again because Trump's base is at odds with Obama's, because Obama was nicknamed the deporter-in-chief, and now Trump's base is in the mix with the Los Angeles Times, stating that more than 1,600 immigrants have been detained in Southern California this month. Now, the report goes on to state that they had no criminal record. And that's what's unique, I guess. Now, the debate seems to be more centered around how was Obama given the okay to deport nearly 400,000 people, and now Trump being labeled the enemy because of his most recent stance. Now, thus keeping the immigration story in top headlines. Now, Obama also carried out several bombing operations, causing Trump's supporters to defend Trump's stance when deciding to carry out with the plan to crush Iran's nuclear program. Folks, the story is still developing. Story number 4 made this week. We'll focus on our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with top 4. So don't you go under the media and me, Brown West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week, folks. So this is my birthday this week, and I'm the host of the show. I will talk a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about myself personally. And one thing that I've learned about myself is that I have not had a lot of success in relationships, and sadly, and the sad part about me is I'm just filled with love, and I love women, but I have not had success with relationships. My high school sweetheart, I had to let her go because I went to the Navy and she went to the Army, and my uncles and them were telling me, "Bro, don't let that girl go to the Army. It's men all over the world that's gonna be all over that girl, and she ain't gonna love you like you need to be loved." So I let her go, and I never got to explain to her why I had to let her go. You know, she came home all upset. "You did it. You did that." Told everybody she threw me through a window. I've had a sad encounter when it comes to relationships, and that's one story. And another story is I used to buy girls flowers, and I'd wine and dine a girl. Called me the biggest sugar daddy in town. They come Brian with a sugar cane for the girls, love and affection. I mean, I come up with flowers. And one girl did me so bad, I went out of my way. I bought her a beautiful gift, and I just liked her company. I thought she was unique, and she didn't really care too much for me. One time I called her, she put her boyfriend on the phone. "You called my girl? What you want to do? What you want to do, bro?" I'm like, "Come on, man. We brothers. Had to go through that. Then she had some chicken. This was sad. She had bought some chicken, and I thought it was for me, and I love chicken. And I thought she had finally come around. I said, oh, she's starting to like me now. So I said, is that chicken for me? She said, no, it's for my new boyfriend. I say, dang. All them flowers, all the love I could give to you and provide, and there ain't no chicken for me? Yeah. So that's my story when I'm turning 43, and I've learned a lot about myself. You know, my Aunt Susie, I walked. The reason why I got up and learned how to walk, was for some chicken. And that's why I say, if there's an evil force that want to get to me, and just put a woman in front of me and dangle some chicken, and she just playing with me. Hey, the chicken right here, chicken, you go get it, chicken. That's what they do. That's what the enemy, the evil forces, don't want to see Brian smile and full of love and affection. Let's waste no time, folks. Happy birthday to me. I'll probably be lonely in a room somewhere, read a newspaper. Let's get to story number 5. Medicaid in top headlines due to budget talk. This is a big story. Bloomberg has a report with the headline informing the public that the Senate GOP has restored Medicaid cuts in Trump's tax package. Now, the report has the attention of those with serious health issues, from the poor and middle class all around. Now, what has this story trending is due to the question of what is fair when you're dealt the hard hand of aiding those who need such programs and those who are abusing the system. So what do you do when you're dealt this hand? Now, the Washington Post has a headline stating that at least 17 million Americans would lose insurance under Trump's plan, folks. This is after years of progress under the Affordable Care Act, folks. This story is still developing. So story number 5 made it. Story number 6, the birthright debate is in the Supreme Court. NPR has a headline explaining what birthright citizenship is and how it became a hot topic in a Supreme Court ruling. A report written by Bill Chappell on June 27th focuses on the attention and abuse of immigration rights when people without legal status in the United States, I guess this is when they have had children. They're saying that when they're born in the United States, that this specific right has been abused. Now, the entire claim seems to be that birthright citizenship, the birthright citizenship clause, has just been trampled on and has left the United States with other countries problems due to this loophole. So this is what, I guess this is why the story is making headlines, folks. Let's get the story to the top 8, because if it's being abused, I guess what they're trying to say is that attention needs to be put on it so it doesn't keep happening. Big story. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines in developing news stories that made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early, you can check out the website on the screen. Go to the website and to our time capsule of news programs, and you can check out the show on Mondays if you don't get up this early. Story number 7, let's get to it. Disaster aid is a topic of concern due to cuts. NPR has a headline stating that 14 million lives could be lost due to Trump's aid cuts. Now, the study seems to focus on how many lives have been saved and what will happen once the 83% cuts go into effect. And we got the story in is the fact that the study estimated that U.S. aid programs have saved over 90 million lives over the past decade. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that I made this week, folks. If you do want to show some support, it does not take much. I have to visit the website on the screen and buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Story number 8. Charities across the world are speaking out in war-hit regions. NBC News has an interesting report from the angle of the charity groups that are serving in these wars. Now, the report says that 170 charities and NGOs call for U.S. and Israel-backed Gaza aid distribution to be shut down because more than 500 Palestinians have been killed and almost 4,000 injured in less than 4 weeks trying to access or distribute food in Gaza. Now, the article talks about Israel forces and Hamas armed groups routinely opening fire on Palestinians seeking aid. Now, these are reports coming from some of the world's largest charities, if you did not know. Now, the report talks about massacres and blatant disregard for international humanitarian law. I mean, this is what's all in this report. Now, the report even calls aid areas death traps. That's how sad this is. Now, this is a really sad situation that really informs the public on what is going on in the war between Israel and Hamas, and probably Russia and Ukraine also. Now, this is a serious report that requires an explanation and could explain why there has been so much hostility rippling up the world's military chain of commands, folks. Now, if these allegations are proven true, Netanyahu and Hamas could remain in the global hot seat and more push for people just to end this war. The damage is done, folks. The story is still developing. That's why Senator Ray made it to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I hope you guys something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigator of stories just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen and buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Or you stop by store at 5648 Mark Street in Mormon, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.